Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Soul Sync Sessions podcast. I'm super excited to be here today with Shauna, who is an amazing spiritual and energetics career coach. So she is here, and we're going to talk all things energetics and alignment, mind, body, soul, and business. She brings in a bunch of different modalities. So, Shauna, thank you so much for being here today. Let us know a little bit about you and how you got started and what you've got going on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I was like, ooh, this sounds right up my alley. I can talk alignment and business and all that all day long. So
Love it.
I love to teach women how to really find true alignment in their work, whether that is just not just, let me take that word back. I actually hate that word. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom or you're both a mom and working, or you're not a mom and you're working, because it truly is all about finding alignment in your life. And maybe that's starting your own business. Maybe that's loving your 9 to 5. There's no right or wrong way to live your life and your career and choosing your passions. And so I love to really flip the script in getting women into the concept that you actually should love your work and you should love what you're doing with your life, because we spend 1,900 hours a year at a full-time job, and actually more if you're working over 40 hours a week, which is insane for you not to love what you're doing. And when I started this passion of mine, I was in a career that I thought I was going to love, that typical, like I checked the boxes. I was like, all right, I got the title. I, you know, am here. I've made it, right? Quote unquote, I've made it. And I got into this position. I had desired a director position for quite some time, and I got the title, and I was like, all right, this is it. This is all I need. Like, and it sucked. It was soul sucking, like dumpster fire, day after day. And I came to the awareness very quickly when I started this job that this is absolutely horrific. This company doesn't care about their employees whatsoever, and I will not be here long. And I stayed for about 14 months, which was way too long. And I realized, like I said, 90 days in, I was like, I will never work in a job again that I do not love, that I do not align with from a values perspective, from a mission perspective. And that's when I started my business, because I was like, all right, there are way too many women out here doing things that they hate, that they think they have to do because they went to school, got the degree, were told to stay in the job because it's got good benefits, it's secure, it's got a good salary, which, yes, all those things can be meaningful and important. But if you don't love the work that you're doing and you're not actually enjoying your job, you will burn out very quickly. You will create disease within your body because you're going to be so stressed out. And that's not the way that we are designed to live. We should truly be lit up by what we're doing every single day, motivated, inspired, and waking up like not dreading Mondays, not
Yes.
having the Sunday scaries, not, getting to Friday and be like, all right, let me check my watch every 5 minutes because I can't wait until it's 5 o'clock and I can go home. Like that's not the life that we should be doing. And we should not be on this hamster wheel, this rat race. And I really want women to realize that you can live a very different life. You can make the switch. You can switch your careers. I've done that. I don't believe anybody should be in the same career for the whole life. It's like, how boring.
Right.
And we should be in a place where we're learning, we're expressing ourselves, we're passionate about, we're developing ourselves, and there's so many ways to do it. And so, yeah, that's what I'm here to do, spread the message and really, like I said, flip that narrative.
I love all of that. Like all day long, I tell women, I'm like, wait, what? So if money wasn't a thing, what would you actually be doing? Because let's do that and let's just pivot or do something that brings that into your life. I actually went to like a tea party a couple weeks ago and we were all just talking about the big dreams or like what we would do if money wasn't an object. And we went around the table and I was like, why are we not doing these things? Like the one lady next to me was a professor, but and now she does like kind of coaching and career stuff. But what she was really wanting to do, she's like, I would love to just travel and do a blog. And she has a copywriting background and just like do reviews on all these places. I was like, there's people that do that for a living and make stuff. So even just starting here and doing one little thing where it's like, go to an Airbnb for the weekend or write a review or do some reviews on restaurants and kind of put yourself into that energy. And that totally shifts everything.
Mhm.
And then I integrate human design into my work too. And like I think it's around 70% of the population is generators, and generators literally work on doing things that bring them joy. But if 60 or 70% of the population hates what they're doing at their job and it's working against how you work as a woman, and you're kind of just adding on, like you said, it creates dis-ease in the body. So there's so much room for that. And to just, get out there and do something that lights you up.
Yes, and I love that you mentioned the population. So there's a study that came out, I think it was 2023 or 2024, on from Pew Research on do you enjoy your work? I was like, do you love your work? But nobody's researching love. They're like, using particular words. And only about 50% of the population in the US actually enjoys their work, which is insane to me. Like
Yeah.
that is like we've got to start thinking differently. I think generations ago, people just worked to work, right? They worked to survive. They worked to bring in that income and they worked in the same job because you got your pension. Well, pensions don't exist anymore.
Right.
Very rarely are you going to see a company actually take care of you and as you get older in age. And so we really need to think about, okay, what can I do to take care of myself and secure some financial freedom when you are older because nobody wants to be working full time. Well, maybe you do. Let me take that back. Maybe you do want to work full time when you're 70, but you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to be in a place where like that is your destiny because you don't have any other choices. And so, really thinking ahead as well and how you can continue on into your passions. And maybe it's a different passion when you're older and you're quote unquote retired.
Yeah, and I think it all comes down to freedom of like what does freedom look like to you? What does it represent to you? What is that happiness, and how can you bring that into your life? And for me, like I know you talked about the security and the benefits and all of that, and I think that's a lot of the reason why people stay in the jobs like the corporate world, besides the shoulds. Like that's a big thing for me too, is like if you're doing something just because you should be doing it, there's a pivot that needs to happen here. And then it's like, is that actual security? Because the corporate job that I worked at right out of school, I was there for 5 years and I went through five layoffs. So there was five different layoffs that happened. It was usually one per year. It happens around the holidays and you're just let go. So that perception of security is not actual security because you're kind of giving somebody else the control whether you have a job or not tomorrow. Versus if
Mhm.
you take it into your own hands, you kind of have that freedom to scale up as an entrepreneur, kind of shifting the perspective of like, taking the pressure off of, oh my gosh, I have to make this money or I have to find all these clients. Instead, it's like, I get to have no cap on how much I make today. Like I can make as much money as I want or as much money that I call in when I step into that alignment too.
Yeah. And, I also want to go back to when you talked about human design. I am by no means an expert, but I definitely love to incorporate like the types and the authorities when I'm talking to people who I'm working with. And, I'm a generator as well. And so I think it's really important to recognize what is going on internally and listening to your body. What is your intuition telling you? And you don't need to be a generator to leverage this. You can be any type of human design type. It's really about listening to your body. And I have a whole podcast episode on this on my show, but I talk about is your body's going to tell you whether or not the career is aligned if you're listening. And if you're waking up every single day and your shoulders are tense and you're stressed out, and that's how you start your day, all right, we've got to like rethink some things. And, your body will tell you with time what is going on. Whether you're gonna listen or not is up to you. And we just need to, I think, as women, recognize like our intuition is I don't want to say it's our fifth vital sign because it's actually our menstrual cycle, but it's like our sixth vital sign of like, okay, are we listening to our gut, to our emotional authority, if that is your authority? Is it a hell yes or is it a hell no? Like, what is going on? And can you slow down and actually listen internally to what is going on inside of you?
Yeah, and that's I know you brought up the cycle too, and that for me is kind of what brought me out of my head and into my body because I went through the corporate job and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't sit at the 9 to 5. I got kind of boxed in and was like, okay, well, I can't scale. I'm just stuck in this corner. I don't like that. So I pivoted and I did wedding planning, and that's how I eventually as an empath and doing all of that and trying to do all the things and figure out what I was doing, I wound up burning myself out. My hormones went totally postmenopausal. And I was working with a functional doctor at the time to figure out what was going on to help me heal naturally. And then it opened up the whole box of worms of like, okay, energetics and the cycle. And why are we not taught this as women that we have four phases to our cycle? And there's all of this like, that's your superpower.
Hmm.
So tapping back into that. And that is really a tool that gave me a structure that was like, okay, I have these 4 phases. This is how I should be working out during these phases. This is how I can bucket my work in these phases. So, is that something that you use with your clients as well, as far as like, hey, this is a tool to get into your body?
That's so funny you said that. So I believe in the power of three. When I hear a subject or a subject has been brought to my attention 3 times, I'm like, okay, I need to pay attention, and this is it. So you are the third person very recently that I've had a podcast interview with where we've talked about cycles. So I probably will. I have not, but I do think, as you said, it's really, really important because each phase is a little bit different, and you have different energetics during each phase. And not even just about working out, which I think is important if you are an athlete, but just like what projects are you starting? What are you taking initiative on? Do you have a speech or a podcast or an interview? And recognizing, okay, if you have a choice, like let's look at your phase and maybe pick a certain phase versus another to be more engaging. Most women are not ready to party when they're on their periods.
Right.
So, recognizing that, okay, maybe you don't go to an event during that phase of your cycle. Now you can, right? Like, don't pigeonhole yourself. And same thing with human design. Like, it's not about like putting yourself in a box, but it's about leveraging the energetics and like getting intentional with your energy during these time phases and capitalizing if you can, just like astrology. Like, okay, right now we're in eclipse season. What can we leverage energetic wise? Same thing with your cycle.
Yeah, and I love that you say that too, because I think I've come across a bunch of women that are like, well, I don't have a cycle, so I can't use that, which is not true. Like we are cyclical no matter what. And if even using like the moon phases and just tapping into that. But that was the first tool that kind of, like I said, I used it to get it out of my head and into my body to just be present and recognize like, okay, this is my capacity right now, or this is what success looks like for me right now. And it was the same thing with human design. It gives you kind of a blueprint or a permission slip of like, coming back into your body of this is who I am, this is how I'm designed to work. I'm not meant to do it this way. So it gives you kind of like guideposts or the little bumpers, if you will, to keep you in your lane and to stay on track and really just release some of that resistance that we create by just throwing spaghetti at the wall and just picking all of the things that are out there. So I love that you said that it's not something that has to be perfect. It's just a tool that you can use.
Yeah, and I think when people recognize human design, so I'll give you an example. I have multiple jobs. I have my full-time job, I have my coaching job, and in my full-time job, I'm a practice manager and I have 22 employees that report to me. And one of my employees said to me the other day, she's like, "Ah, I knew I shouldn't have moved in with my roommates, and her roommates are just drama and it's like causing a lot of stress in her life." And she's literally waiting to the second her lease expires so she can move out. And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, why didn't you listen to that voice when you signed the lease?" And she's like, "I don't know. I get really anxious." And I said, "Okay, let me look up your human design. Actually, make all my employees give me their human design profile."
I love that.
And so I looked her up and I said, "Okay," I said, "You actually are an emotional authority." And I gave her a screenshot of her profile and I said, "I want you to read this." And I said, "You really need to move through your emotions and then listen after you've processed to those emotions. What are they telling you internally?" And she like processed it for a second. She's like, "Oh my God, you're totally right." And I like changed her life because now she is going to pause and really look internally when she's making decisions. And had she done that in the first place, she, wouldn't be in this situation of stress and hating her roommate. And so, I think with this tool, it's such a great tool to use when you're making decisions, especially career-wise and life in general. And it's really going to support you from a really good perspective long term.
Totally. Yeah, I completely agree. And it is a great tool for just like that decision making, or even just being curious of like, if you don't believe in it or you've never tried it before, or you're starting out and without it being overwhelming, it's like that gut response, right? Or the yes or no, where even if it's what do I want for breakfast today? Do I want this or do I want this? And see what your body says and just play with it. So it's a great tool to just kind of be like, okay, and that way you work that muscle so that you're able to kind of build that. And when there is a big decision, you can be like, oh, yeah, this is the direction that I need to go. This is a yes or a no.
Yes. And you can use it for other things. So, I mentioned earlier you can switch careers. And I've come across a lot of women that I've had on my podcast that have done that. And I'm like so proud of them. 'Cause I'm like, yes, like you like decided this wasn't for you and you like switched. And that you can use human design for that because We get stuck in this pattern of, okay, this is comfortable, this is
Yes.
secure, back to secure, right? And I totally get it. So if you look at like Maslow's like hierarchy of needs, like we as humans have needs that we need to meet, and one of them is food and shelter. Obviously, you need money for those things. And so, we get into this pattern of like it's safe, I am secure, I have this set income that I know is coming in that will provide me with the food that I need, the money for the rent or the mortgage or whatever. And then we just fall into a pattern of the same thing every day, even though we don't love it. And so I totally get it. But again, we need to come back to like our internal authority and listening to like what's going on. And when it comes to making that switch, it can be a really big change and it can be really scary. And I totally get it. I've done that. I switched from retail management into healthcare. And, I went from making good money to nothing and I had to start over. And I was not thoughtful in that planning. I don't recommend that. But, it worked out. And I am now, I've been 7 years in my healthcare career now. And I've started my coaching business and it's all great. But, if you're going to, I think, make that switch, listening to your internal authority, being thoughtful in your planning, and then really figuring out what makes you happy, what feels aligned. So then you're in the right direction. And as you kind of said earlier, trying new things, testing the
Mhm.
waters. We have this mentality of like all or nothing as women, and it doesn't need to be that way. We can
Totally.
go do like you were saying to that woman you were talking to earlier, like, all right, well, go do a little blog. Cool. If it doesn't
Right.
work, it doesn't work. Nothing, no harm, right? And
Yeah.
just seeing like what really brings you joy and alignment as you're kind of testing out what is something that you may want to do with your next career.
Yeah, because life is too short to not be happy. And I think as women too, I had this conversation a couple times recently. And I think there's a trending theme that's coming up of we get so disconnected from what our actual desires are. It's like, what do we desire? Do we want the freedom? That what does that look like? And so exploring those deeper topics of what makes you happy, what actually feels good, what does my body say when it is a yes or it feels good, or like you said, the hell yes or the hell no, what does that look like? Or really feel like in your body. And that comes across all different kinds of things. So I know you do the energetics and the feng shui. So I'd love to touch on that too, because that's something where like even when I just moved into a house. I was living with a partner that I was with, and we decided to go separate ways. And I recently, at the beginning of the summer, moved into my new house, and that was one of the things where I'm like, I need to reorganize where everything is and like change up the space because that feels good to me. So I'd love to hear how you kind of bring all of those things together, what that looks like.
Oh, yes, love feng shui. So feng shui is I've been studying it for many years now, and it's a tool that I use to kind of super speed manifestations. And so if you have an intention, it really does not even matter what it is, whether it's career, whether it's you're wanting to attract in more money, better partnership, better communication, more friends. It really, you think of it, you can use feng shui with it, and you can use it in your home. You can also use it in your work, and I teach both because if you're in a job or you're in an office, you need to be intentional on your workspace, and so within your home, you have 9 areas. It's called the Bagua map. And within those 9 tiles are different focuses from health to career to recognition to family and then wealth and so forth. And I really kind of focus on three just because most people are focusing on these 3 areas, relationships, career, and abundance. And so my favorite one to just give people a sneak peek and to it's really easy to use these techniques is the wealth corner in your home. And so in your home, if you were to walk in your main entrance, and it needs to be the main entrance, so not your side entrance that you actually use all the time, but the main entrance to your home, you'll see most homes are kind of in a square rectangular sort of shape. In the furthest left corner of the home, like, and I mean the furthest, like not like the first room left corner, like how far left can you go? And so that's your wealth corner. And within that wealth corner, whatever that looks like, whether it's your bathroom or a bedroom or whatever, most people it's some sort of like living space. You want to focus on a couple things. One, it needs to be clean and clear. And that is kind of the key focus of feng shui is clean and clear. And if you are familiar with Marie Kondo, I love her mentality. I followed her when she came out many, many years ago. Is do you love it? or not? Is it something that brings you joy or not? And so when you're using feng shui, same concept. Okay, if you have things that are cluttering your spaces, do you love them or not? And it needs to be real quick, yes or no. And so within your wealth corner, you want to look, okay, is it clean and clear? Is it clutter free? Is it a space that has actual flow? Like feng shui is wind and water. So is there a actual space for the chi to come in and clear out this corner of your home? And so once you do that, which very easy, you want to think about, okay, how can I amplify the energy in this wealth corner? And you can do it by a couple ways. I always focus on plants because most people like plants. And in feng shui, plants represent the wood element, which is expansion. And so if you think about, okay, I'm trying to anchor into abundance, which can mean very different things to everybody, but whatever that means to you. So the first thing you want to do is how can you expand that abundance? And so add in a plant. I like to recommend a money tree or money plant just because it's really fun to like have this actual representation of what you're trying to manifest. And so I actually have one right behind me. I'm very close to my wealth corner. And so this is the money tree. It's one of my favorite plants to focus on in feng shui. And you can add in a crystal as well, which is another tool I like to focus on. So I've got an aventurine crystal in here, which is a representation of abundance. And so you're not just going to put your plant or your crystal and then forget about it. The whole purpose of feng shui is to get intentional with your actions, with your aligned actions. And so I've got my money tree, and not every day, but at least 3 times a week, I come talk to it. I like get intentional with it. I water it. I like trim away any dead leaves. And then I do a little mantra of some sorts. And I actually picture the money tree as a representation of my money energy. And so this tree, if you look at it, it looks beautiful. It's very healthy. I actually killed my money tree last year because I put it outside. Don't do that. Um, and
Good to
so
know.
yeah, when I got this one, I was like, all right, this is a great reset refresh of, and I got it this year in 2025. And it had a cool little like snake, because we're in the year of the snake. And I was like, okay, this is like a great reset. I really want to focus on my relationship with the energy of money and I want to expand it. I want to grow it. And so that's kind of what I see when I look at this money tree. And it's a real representation of my intentional energy with money and how I'm growing it, how I'm cultivating it, my give and take. And, everybody's money story is different. So this is going to be very individualized for everybody. But that is one easy way you can amplify the wealth corner in your home just by adding a plant or a crystal. Or something else you could do is just add the color purple. In feng shui, the purple represents wealth. If you think about, you know, in like the 1900s, 1800s, whatever, when only the royalty had the fabric purple, and so it's the same concept.
I
So
love that.
that is one very easy way. And every single person I tell to focus on their wealth corner and they do the thing, they always see some sort of results. And so it does work. And it's not about like instant gratification, which it can be, everything. I never say never, but um, with feng shui, it's about what are the small things that we're seeing as a result of our intentions. And, I'll give an example. When I was working with a client, she was like, "Oh yeah, I got X amount of additional views on my YouTube channel, and I got a refund that I didn't know was coming, and it was like $600." And then she had all these other like little things happen, and she was adding them up. Actually, she was keeping tally, and it was really cool to see within this month span, she had like attracted in like a couple $1,000s, and her business was growing, and it's like, okay, that's amazing. Like these are really cool wins to look at and celebrate as you kind of see the intentions and the result of your actions. And so, yeah, I incorporate feng shui with everything. Another easy way, because again, I want people to access this stuff, and it's
Yeah.
really simple. It's not. I like to make feng shui simple. You can make it hard. I don't align with that. I don't have time for that. So another way, especially yeah, you just moved into your home. This is a great like easy thing to do because you're doing it already. Clean your front door.
Mm-hmm.
So in feng shui, the main door to your home is the portal of qi into. So qi is energy. So it's how new energy comes into your home. And so on the first of the month, I think it's the fifth of the month, you can still do this. Again, it's not about the actual date, it's about the intention. Clean your door. So get all the cobwebs out, get all the dust out, shake out your welcome mat, sweep your front porch, make sure your bulbs, your light bulbs actually are working. So you're gonna clean all that. And then I have some fun with this. So again, intention is all start singing and dancing when I'm cleaning my front door. And
Love
I'll
it.
start singing like a mantra, like a money mantra and or an abundance mantra of like, all right, I'm open to receiving like all the abundance for me. I allow in all the energy. And you want to just leave your front door open as you're kind of doing this, and have fun with it. And so that's something everybody can do. I hope people are cleaning their doors. And make it fun and make it something that actually brings you joy.
I love that. And I love the intention behind it and just setting joy. Because again, if you're doing it and you're like, oh man, I have to do this because I'm doing it, like, that's gonna not make it fun. And so I like doing, it's kind of like bringing the joy and that spark into the mundane too. So it's like if you're making your coffee, if you're washing your face, like I do it with when I'm washing my face, and I've said this before on my show, but it's like I set the intention of like I'm cleaning away all of the energy that I don't want. Like anything lower vibrational, I'm just washing it away when I wash my face. And I do it at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. So kind of just like intentionally or adding intentions to the things that you're already doing. Like you said, you should be cleaning your front door, or you should be kind of organizing or going through the clutter. And starting with that wealth corner would be a great place to start, and then just expand a little bit at a time. And then it's like, I know the one thing that I have not done yet that I need to do is go through my clothes in my closet, because I was like, I have a bunch of stuff that I'm not wearing anymore, and I know it's in there, and I have it in my box, and I'm like, that's the one area that is still on my list to clear out.
And same thing, we talked about, it's like, don't get into like the shoulds. It's like you'll get to
Yeah,
it when you get to it when it feels aligned.
exactly.
And, I love that you said right now, you said washing your face. So I do the same thing with tapping. EFT tapping is every morning when I'm putting on, I did this earlier this morning, when I'm putting on my face oil or moisturizer, I start tapping and go, okay, my skin is amazing. My face is radiant. I glow. My skin looks very youthful. And I do that every single day. And, again, energy and tension behind your action. And so, I think we can really change our reality with these little things that we're doing and really change our scope of what our perception looks like as well with these small actions.
Totally. And I love that you kind of brought that in, because it's like, I don't know if you've heard of Matt Cook. He's like the manifestation coach on Instagram, or like David Guillaume, but they all talk about how you're the director of the movie of your life. And I know David says it all the time. I bring him up all the time. He's like one of my favorite people to listen to. But he talks about like if you're sitting in a movie theater and your life is that movie, it's like there's different realities essentially that you can switch to, basically by Gabby Bernstein says this too, of just changing the narrative, choosing differently in that moment. So it's like you're sitting in here and, if you're getting up in the morning, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to wash my face. I have all these things that I have to do. Just pausing for a minute and saying those mantras, or adding in some tapping, or kind of releasing that negative energy and choosing differently in that moment so that you can go forward in your day. Like, how much of a difference is that going to make versus waking up on a Monday and worrying and stressing about all the things, or instantly picking up your phone and diving into emails and getting caught up in all of that stuff, setting that intention and having a moment to yourself in the morning to just breathe and reset and ground yourself is going to shift the entire narrative. It's going to change that whole movie you're watching for that day.
Yes, 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 yes. And I talk about this a lot too with my clients is incorporating meditation. And I know that is not always easy for a lot of people. When I was pregnant, I did it when I was pregnant, but like very early postpartum, I didn't meditate for like probably 6 months just because I was very sleep deprived and
Yeah.
had a very different routine. And so again, it's not the all or nothing mentality. It's how can we incorporate these little routines to make them just habits that they're make them actions that become habits. And so when you start your day off, not scrolling your phone, not turning on the news, not stressing or checking your email, and really pausing. I love mornings. They're my favorite part of the day because I get to be in my quietness. Like my husband's always like, you got up early. Even on the weekend, I get up early. And I'm like, yeah, because I want my alone time. I want that moment of peace, especially I have a 14-month-old, and two dogs. And so very rarely do I have quiet time of the day. And so, I want that moment to set the intention for the day And so I'll take anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. It really just depends on the day. And sometimes I don't even get that much. Again, it's what can you do? What can you capitalize on? And I make my coffee and I sit down. I do not turn on my phone. Well, it's on, but I don't look at it. I have it on Do Not Disturb. And I just sit there, and normally it's in like very like dim lighting. And I sing into gratitude, and I anchor into the manifestations that I picture them as now. And so right now I'm focusing on a different piece of my business that I want to create. And so I anchor into those aspects as if it's already happening. So I anchor into the feelings of like, okay, I am XYZ. I have XYZ. I feel, joy, passion, motivation. My day looks like this. And then just to like turn it up a notch, when I'm driving to work, I do it again and I anchor into those. I put on a very specific playlist and because let's be real, when we're driving, there's traffic, people are annoying, like it's not the most relaxing way to start your day.
Yeah.
And so I sink into those feelings again of, okay, I'm driving to, see this client, even if I'm going to my, my full-time job. I'm grateful for this. I'm inspired by this. And just taking those few minutes, and it's not the whole drive, it's maybe like 5 minutes. Because then I get distracted because people are, cutting me off or whatever. And again, just anchoring into those emotions and getting into that space and that at frequency. Because life is life. Like you're gonna have things that are stressful. It's going to happen. And how can we set the day with the right frequency, maybe reset throughout the day if we can. And then, as you kind of talked about earlier, is like ending the day in a way that is going to, bring us more joy and passion too.
Yeah, and I love that. And I love that you touch on the actual feeling and the emotions because I think sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of talk out there about overriding the feelings or like spiritual bypassing and different things like that. But actually stepping into a place where you're feeling it, but not letting the emotions take over. It's just acknowledging, like, okay, this is how I feel in this moment, and that's okay. And giving yourself permission to really feel that and then to say, okay, now I'm going to move on. Or I had, one of my friends, she's done like shadow work and stuff like this. And at one point, she did a mirror exercise with me and we were going through it. And so I remember being in traffic and it was like I was very anxious about something. I don't remember what it was, but I was sitting at the stoplight and I was like, okay, I've got 2 minutes. Whatever part of me that is screaming at me for attention right now, just say everything you need to say. And it was like the voice just shut down because it was that part of me was seen, whatever that was, and it kind of just relaxed me. So being able to feel that or acknowledge that it's there instead of trying to be like, I don't want to feel this, let me just push it away. And then being able to say, okay, I felt this for this minute and now I'm going to move on.
Yes. One thing that I do with clients and I've done with myself too is time tech it's called time techniques, and you can do it with past life. I don't go that far back. I do it more like current, and so it's almost like inner child, but it doesn't need to be just focused on inner child. So I've done it with myself, with like past versions of myself, and like taking a moment to recognize. So if you've read the book The Body Keeps the Score, we as humans hang on to our emotions sometimes for a very long time. And it's almost like a compound effect. So if you experience, say, a stressor, 10, 12 years ago, whatever it may be, and you've never truly addressed that moment in time, you've never released that, those emotions continue to compound over and over and over and over. It's almost like compound interest, right? It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so, as you talked about, right, you're addressing this inner critic, this inner voice of yourself. You've got to be able to go back and realize that version of you, that timeline that happened for a reason. You wouldn't be here if it didn't happen. And so I do this somatic hypnotherapy work where we kind of go back in time and we go see that past version of ourselves. And I go through an exercise of gratitude where you're going to thank that past version of yourself for
Mhm.
that journey that you went on. Again, you wouldn't be here if it didn't happen. And releasing any shame or guilt that occurred during that. And for me it was this relationship that I had where it was not a great relationship. And I really, I'm not the same person that I was then. And so I was able to like really go back, and that was, gosh, 15 years ago, and really go back and thank that version of myself for all those things and really sync the two together. And you almost want a picture of it's like two entities, two different versions of yourself where you're going to mesh them as one, and you're going to release any guilt, any shame, and thank that person for that journey, and practice that gratitude, because no matter what happens in our lives, we have to realize our paths are all meant for a reason,
Yeah.
even if it wasn't an ideal situation. And even in times that, like, that can be tragic and can be just really detrimental to our health, it's like, okay, hey, you've moved forward. And, there are times and places for this exercise. Sometimes it's not the right time. and, and being able to really let go. And I love incorporating as well a cord cutting ceremony of
Mhm.
where you're picturing yourself like cutting ties with that situation. It doesn't need to be your past self. It can be a friend. It could be, or a
Mhm.
past friend. It can be a past relationship. And again, letting go of that energetic pull that this situation has on you so you can truly move forward in a way that is all about you and not about them.
Yeah, I love that. I love every piece of that. That's like, and the gratitude and the celebration and like all of those components to that, and just thanking yourself for those moments because that's what led you here today. Like that it 100% is. I love all of those pieces. So you mentioned a couple different topics and things that ways that you help your clients through coaching with the hypnotherapy and the tapping and the feng shui and bringing all of that in together as far as the energetics and then the careers and all of that stuff. Tell the listeners who are listening a little bit about how can they work with you? What does that look like working with you from that perspective?
Yeah. So I have two, well, I guess three options, but so I've got a 3 month and a 6 month coaching package. I don't do just one-offs because the work can't really be done in just a couple sessions. And so those are kind of like more longer term packages. And then I do one-off sessions with cord cutting because we can do some deep work with a quick hour. And so if you're like, okay, I'm also a Reiki practitioner, and so I incorporate that too. And so if you are somebody who's like, ah, I just like there's this thing that's bugging me, I can't get past it. I just need some, like, not, I don't want to say quick, that's not the right word because you need to integrate it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you want something that will a quick tool that'll get you the support you need, I do have one-off sessions for Reiki or hypnotherapy, and I'll create a custom hypnotherapy too. If you're like, oh, I can't commit to like a live session, or I'll do both. So kind of, I'll customize it depending on what the person needs. And then, I have my own podcast. So if you are on, a podcast listener, which if you're listening to this, you probably are, check me out on Align Your Glow and Soul. And yeah, those are some easy ways to access me. And then I'm on Instagram. That's my favorite platform. So I'm always on there talking about feng shui.
I love all of that. That's amazing. And I love how intuitive it is because I've been talking to a lot of my friends too that have a bunch of different modalities and a lot of my clients too, where they're just like, how do I package what I do? Because it's, there's so much into it. So just going into it and just being like, okay, this is my intention for what I want. This is the transformation that I want to work with, and being able to intuitively bring in all of these different elements, I think is just so powerful.
Yeah, it's fun. It is fun. I love it. I cannot, like, every single day I'm like, oh, so grateful I get to do this. It's so fun.
Yes, I know, me too. I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to read somebody's chart today. I love it. So, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to put all the links below to your podcast and to your Instagram so that everybody can stay connected and continue to follow you and learn from you and hopefully work from you. So, thank you so much. This conversation was incredible.
Oh, thank you, Samantha. It was, yeah, super fun. Great way to start my day. I really appreciate it.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. Okay, perfect. I think the recording stopped.
Okay. I was like, it was
Wait, no,
frozen.
it didn't. I was like, it said it did, but then it was like, no, I'm still recording. Oh, Zoom.